Oi, gente. No dia 2 de novembro vai rolar em São Paulo um show único de uma grande banda, uma das melhores bandas dos últimos 15 ou 20 anos. Estou falando dos Sleaford Mods. Eles tocam em São Paulo no dia 2 de novembro com a abertura do Black Pantera, um show sensacional que eu estou ajudando a promover, estou trazendo para o Brasil. E eu tive a felicidade de conversar com Jason Williamson. Jason Williamson é o cérebro por trás do Sleaford Mods. Ele faz as letras, ele canta, ele é o Sleaford Mods, junto com o beatmaker e produtor Andrew Fern. Foi um papo muito legal em que a gente falou das influências dele, de como ele se inspira para fazer as letras dos Sleaford Mods, do processo de composição das músicas, da relação dele com Andrew Fern. Foi muito legal a entrevista, tenho certeza que vocês vão gostar. Aqui no canto aqui da tela eu vou deixar um QR Code com link para vocês comprarem ingresso desse show que rola de novo 2 de novembro no Carioca Club em São Paulo. Valeu, galera. Aproveitem a entrevista Jason Williamson do Sleaford Mods. Thank you very much. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Hello, Andre. How you doing?
I'm doing great, mate. I'm one of the promoters of your gig here in São Paulo, so we're really
Oh,
excited.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it should be good. Hopefully.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
it's going to be amazing, man. It's going to be amazing. I mean, did you ever have any offers to play here? Because I mean, you've been around for so long. It's amazing that you never
Yeah.
played America, right?
There was lots of interest, but around sort of spare ribs, the interest started coming in quite heavy. But
Oh yeah,
we just didn't have at the time. We just didn't have the time to do it. I guess I think we were just flat out with prearranged tours for Europe
yeah.
or America or whatever, you know. So getting a South America one in now is you know, we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
It's going to be really really cool. And
Mm.
you guys in the middle of a tour now, right? In Europe.
Kind of a festival season, and that's nearly at an end. We've got two more gigs in Germany in a couple of weeks, and then it is a bit of time off until we come over to you.
Cool, cool. And I'd like to ask you about the writing process on Sleaford Mods. I mean, I've been
Uh-huh.
listening to you guys for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and what comes first? I mean, I'm pretty sure that I want to ask you also if about your inspirations. I mean, are you a guy, a lyricist that writes down a lot of stuff on the spot while it's happening, like, or are you more the type that, well, we need to record an album now, I'm going to do it, you know?
Bit of both, really. I think what I quite like doing is a complete and utter disregard for, you know, all this earnest bullshit and
Yeah,
just you know, you know, really thinking about the world. Fuck
yeah,
off, you know, just let it just let it come out when it does
yeah,
at that moment. And I find that if you do stuff like that, I mean, a lot of the lyrics are premeditated because I'm, you know, I'm at the minute I'm certainly enjoying writing stuff down and then going back and modifying it, making it sound better, making it sound more subtle,
hmm,
slicker, you know. But generally, I like to. I think for the main body of the album, it's kind of just it's pretty much done within that period that you're going into the studio. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that period can last anything up to 2 years, you know. But they are sort of thrown down around the time, you know.
sure. But you guys don't have like a schedule. I mean, you don't have a schedule ahead, like, oh, we're going to record an album next year or
Yeah,
something. It's
yeah, we do.
something
Yeah,
you
yeah, we
do.
have, yeah, we do. Yeah. So, but like I say, you know, it's kind of you've just yeah. I guess most musicians do, don't they? They just take a few ideas into the studio and then the rest comes out like that. That's where you get your professional status from, I guess. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's how we do it, I guess.
But when you go to the studio, do you have a lot of things written down already?
A few bits,
A
yeah,
few bits.
yeah, a few bits and bobs. If Andrew's got a particularly good loop, then I'll automatically, naturally just veer towards that and give that more attention than the other ones that perhaps aren't as immediate. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Sure. Sure. And what attracted you to Andrew's music? I mean, when you saw him DJ, what exactly? I mean, can you just tell me about that? I mean,
I just
Y-
needed something really quite minimal, quite basic, but um, something that housed uh, variations of East Coast hip hop,
Yeah,
of new romantic era stuff, of sort of Newman-esque
yeah,
kind of stuff like that, kind of electronica, 80s electronica pop, um, but also a kind of real minimal. Oh God, how do you put it? I don't know. Something that incorporated sort of 80s punk as well.
sure.
Yeah, sort of like, and also sort of like, shit punk, like the Exploited and stuff like
Yeah,
that I was into. Sort of second wave punk, late early 80s punk. So all of that, I don't know, and I didn't know how that was going to sound, but I heard his music in it, and it just seemed to, if there seemed to be an urgency to it. Um, it just seemed quite singular, and
sure.
yeah, and I needed something organic. I was using loops up until then
Yeah.
from other records. It was no good. You know what I mean?
So, and Andrew's style was, I read about that he was playing like grime stuff, but it was kind of like what you guys do today, very, very gritty and
Yeah,
yeah,
I think at the
scratchy.
time, yeah, he was doing. There's a lot of two step and dubstep that he was
Yeah,
doing, but his variation on it. So, I mean, it probably didn't house any of what I've just described to you at all, really, but it kind of did. I think at the time, sort of like late noughts, 2008, that music was so stale.
yeah, yeah.
And like I say, I was listening to all that kind of stuff, and I wanted that urgency, and I just found that I just noticed that urgency in the music he was playing on that night. So yeah,
You mentioned Gary Newman and some other 80s, 70s, and 80s artists. I
yeah.
mean, were you a fan of like electronic pop post-punk, like these bands like Cabaret Voltaire and these bands that mixed rock with electronics at the time?
No, not really. I'm really lazy, and I should listen to more stuff because I know I'll like it, but I just haven't bothered. At the time, my girlfriend had going to the Tubeway Army album
Yeah,
with is it what was it? I can't remember the tune now. Is it Cars?
yeah,
I
Cars,
can't.
Metal,
Yeah, yeah,
ME. Yeah,
yeah. So I was obsessed with that. Just
yeah,
the first two tracks on that album, I was quite obsessed with. Um, his vocal, and it just all sounded so fresh.
yeah.
And I was obviously I've been previously obsessed with the Wu-Tang Clan and all these
Hmm.
solo albums that they'd done, and I was into listening to a lot of Discharge, or rather, one or two songs from Discharge,
Yeah.
but just over and over again. The Meteors, stuff like that. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, it it was quite a meeting of minds that night, really. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, I've seen the Meteors live. They're an amazing live band.
Yeah, yeah, I bet they were. What, back in the day, or?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh fuck, I bet that was brilliant. Yeah,
Very, very good. And
yeah.
in the 90s, I mean, there were some British bands that kind of fused rock with electronic. I mean, the Prodigy, you guys worked with the Prodigy, but I mean, their
Uh-huh.
albums in the 90s are pretty exciting, weren't they?
Yeah, I think Prodigy's up until about Fat of the Land.
Yeah.
All those albums are really interesting, but past that, they are, there's some right old gems on there.
Yeah.
But yes, an exceptional band. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
Jilted Generation, especially, really. I think.
Yes, and it kind of mixed what you were saying, like a punk sensibility with electronics, and I
Uh-huh.
guess for you guys, I don't know, for your generation, our
Yeah.
generation was pretty important, right?
Oh God, yeah. But I kind of went off all that stuff and got
Yeah.
into lots of contemporary indie, and for good reason. The Stone Roses, and obviously sort of like Oasis to a
Hmm.
certain degree, a little bit. First album. Um, um, you know, you couldn't ignore it really. And obviously clubbing, dance music, house music. But then I kind of seem to revert back to the old stuff I used to be into as a kid for inspiration when I was
Right.
writing songs, you know.
And what were they? What things were they?
What do you mean?
What artists? You said that you reverted to them for inspiration when you were a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. Just, I mean, obviously the Jam, Style Council,
Cool.
again, as we said, the Meteors, Luther Vandross, like all that business, Public Enemy, obviously new discoveries such as the Wu-Tang, but although I wasn't listening to them as a kid, but you know, definitely the Exploited, Antipasti, the Sex Pistols, obviously, just stuff like that, you know. And finding that kind of this need to want to learn how to rap kind of also housed an ability to sing in a punk way as well.
Sure. Sure.
And I found the two things kind of work quite well together, you know. It was always, I can't do this, I can't do this. And it's like, if you're thinking that and yet it works, then obviously that's the answer. You
Yes.
should do that, you know.
Yes. Yes. Your style has been described even lyrically to people that I really admire, like Marquis Smith of the Fall. And
Uh-huh.
do you see yourself in the same vein as Mark? I mean, as a guy who did like very funny lyrics too, right? But
Yeah,
very cryptic too, very
yeah,
mysterious. A lot of times
yeah,
you didn't know what he
yeah,
was talking about, right?
yeah, yeah. I suppose in a way, yeah. But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm like a clean living, you know, quite a sane, responsible individual. Whereas, you know, Marquis Smith and all of my predecessors weren't and aren't, you know, the ones that are still alive, you know,
Yes.
they're on the kind of last legs, and they were products of their generation. I would imagine if I was, I don't know actually, would I have been a clean living person even if I was born in the 50s
Yeah.
after a while? Perhaps I don't know, you know. But I always think, well, I'm not, you know, they were proper rock and rollers in a lot, and I
Yes.
know he would have hated that term, but they were proper mavericks,
Yes.
and they didn't give a fuck,
Yeah.
and they were, you know, proper troubadours and pioneers, and you know, I don't know if I'm, yeah, I don't know if I'm a pioneer really. I think we do something different, but I don't know.
Well, you guys definitely have done something very different. I mean, from
Yeah,
what's going
sure,
on. I mean, come on.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Let's be
yeah, yeah,
honest here. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. But I mean, I'm sure you'd agree here. You know, it's like, you know, if you were lauded for your painting or whatever, and you know, around the world, but would you compare yourself to all the great painters? I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? You never see
it
yourself
is.
as that, and I
It is
don't even
tough.
think it's imposter syndrome because you know, I'm not, you know, I'm aware of that. I've got these set of skills and you know, whatever. I go out and I use them, but you just think, fuck it. You listen when you listen to a Fall album, it's
Yeah,
they're exceptional.
they are.
Uh, they are exceptional. Any one of them is, you know, there's apparently he did a lot of shit, but
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of a band like that is that each record is just full of great
Yeah.
stuff. I don't think he ever did a bad song, did he? If you
It's
think
it's
about it,
it's
theoretically.
hard. Yes, and
Yeah,
it's even if you don't know what he's talking about, it's kind of admirable, right? I mean,
it
most
is.
of the
And
time, yeah.
but also, how can you do a bad song if you are totally and utterly integral all the time? And I believe he
Yes,
was, you know.
he was. Yeah.
I believe people like John Cooper Clarke are, or anyone else, you know, I think they're
Hmm.
completely integral all of the time. It's, you know, they're not Harry Styles.
Yes, yes.
It's not a bloated Gallagher brothers, you know what I mean? Uh, you know. So yeah,
Speaking about
interesting.
not being understood, I mean, you have a very particular, the band has a very particular style, and you talk about things that are integral to your life and to your
Yeah,
surroundings, right? I
yeah,
mean, d- at any point, I mean, you're playing in a different country and you're looking at the audience, singing your lyrics,
yeah.
relating to something that maybe, I mean, they have nothing to relate to, or maybe they do, you know? I mean, how's weird is that for you? I mean,
Yeah, I think well, I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I think a lot of people all around the world have got a good command of English uh, because they've had to have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's almost like an autocratic language,
Yes,
isn't it?
it is.
But also, there's a lot of familiarity in Andrew's music. There's a lot of things that remind you of things gone by that great things that have gone by. But also, I think people connect to the emotion from my you know from my position in the band as well. So all of these things can uh, uh, kind of act as transparency for
Yes.
people that aren't from where we're from. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's true. It's true. And I mean, for Brazilians, I mean, it's really hard to understand some of the stuff. I mean, you're talking about the NHS. Nobody knows what the NHS is here. I mean, they can relate to the
Yeah,
the theme of the song. They can relate to the ambience of the song, but sometimes the
yeah.
specifics are kind of hard,
Yeah, yeah, true. But I didn't know who the UDA was or the IRA when I listened to Anarchy in the UK for the first
Yes,
time.
it's true.
And although I'm English and I could very much understand what John Lydon was going on about,
Yeah,
um, uh, uh, at the same time I didn't know what those things were. But I had an inkling that he was upset.
yeah,
So I think people are drawn to very over emotive, not over emotive things. So that makes it sound false, but people are drawn to intensity, aren't they? And
yes,
people are drawn to a bit of honesty, And I
yeah,
think we like to. There's all of those things in Sleaford gigs. You know what I mean?
true, true. And I'd like to ask about the current state. I mean, what's going on in Britain? I mean, is it inspiring you in any way? Because I mean, all these manifestations, the racist things, this xenophobe thing. I mean, it has to be something very, very, um, very troubling for you guys, right?
It's not really troubling. It's you like. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about nationalism anymore because we've
Yeah,
covered it. We've covered
sure.
it. But at the same time, something will there'll be another interesting approach to it. Uh, you're always looking for different ways to say the same things,
Yeah,
as I think Paul Weller once said ages back, and he's right. You
yeah,
are.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
looking. You're talking about your surroundings all of the time, or people, and what changes. There are things that obviously that do change. We're kind of overrun by culture wars and you know an absolutely splintered and confused left wing presence. Um, People are attacking each other rather than attacking the actual problem. And
yes,
social media, obviously. So there's always interesting things to talk about. I don't know. I ain't got a clue what I'm going to be writing next time. It's like you can't think what pisses me off because I
mm,
think I don't know really. I think as I said earlier, the true resistance is in being is trying to be as honest as you can be about your approach to what you're going to write.
sure. And I'd like to ask about the visual impact that some of your lyrics cause the listener. I mean, I think your music is very filmic, right? Very cinemat. I mean, are you a film buff? Do you watch a lot of films? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, loads, yeah, all the time. Yeah, I love
what is
films.
your main taste? I mean,
Just horror, anything really quite disturbing. If not horror, then drama, whatever. Uh, just horrific situations that I would never want to be in. I guess that's the main draw, isn't it? Really, I'm a big horror fan, really, or
it,
realism. I love realism. Anything that talks about you know um, lives through the lens of people with absolutely no future. You know what I mean? So anything
sure.
like that interests me.
I have a friend, and we were talking about Sleaford Mods music, and he said something really interesting that your music reminded him a lot of the Ken Loach films, you know, in the way that
Yes,
they
yeah,
talk about middle class, but it's a humorous way too, because his films are very, I mean, they're serious, but they have some, like, some very funny parts too. I mean,
uh-huh.
it's not like Italian neorealism from the 40s, you know? Yeah.
No, no, no. Yeah, it is a little bit like that, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, I'd agree.
You think they have that kind of feeling, right? That kind of
I
very,
think, well,
very
just
raw.
because, yeah, just, I mean, just because we're so deadpan about everything, and there ain't a lot of bands doing that, where it's just completely horrible local accents, talking, articulating themselves in a rhythmical way. It's
Yes.
there's just not there. Yeah, there is, but there isn't. You know what I mean? So I guess that's why it sticks out, and that's why people compare it to kitchen sink stuff, or
Yes.
sort of like wallpaper
Yeah.
films. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. So look, Jason, thank you very much for this, man.
Thank you.
I really looking forward to seeing you guys in Brazil. I think it's going
Yeah,
to be
thank
amazing.
you.
I mean, do you have any what are your expectations coming here? I mean,
Absolutely do not know. Um, I don't know. I've got no idea what it'll be like. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
it's going to be really cool. Thank you very much for this, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Nice to have met
I'll
you. Bye bye.
I'll see you soon in São
Yeah.
Paulo.
Take care.
See you soon. Thank you very
Bye.
much.